Welcome to Dependable Flame, where we explore vintage petrol lighters, ashtrays, tobacciana, and other useful mechanisms. Make yourself at home. Today we have this very nice old enameled cigarette case. It measures just a shade under 3 inches by about 2 1/8 inches. It's in very good condition. Inside it contains 4 packages of Prince Albert rolling papers. It does show wear, scuffs, chips to the paint, scratches. It does have the majority of the paint, but is missing chips from several areas, both front and back, sides, covering the hinges, several different places. It is not a perfect case. I watched some videos last week from a channel that was promoting different men's items like business card cases, smart wallets, and things like that. And they mentioned that old cigarette cases were good items to use to carry business cards. I don't know what your average business card size is. Like I said, I believe this case measures just a little under 3 inches by about 2 1/8 inches, and I think this one would be a little bit too short or too narrow to accommodate business cards, but it can definitely hold cigarettes, especially if you roll your own without a filter or crutch. As I said, it will come with these 4 packages of Prince Albert crimp cut. That's describing the tobacco, crimp cut, long burning pipe and cigarette tobacco. I'm going to go ahead and measure this and show you that it is just a hair under 3 inches. And I got distracted, and we're going to measure the other dimension a little bit later in the video. But the Prince Albert papers would fit, if you made cigarettes out of those papers, they would fit in this case. They would not be too long like a lot of the cigarettes that are commercially produced today. But depending on what kind of material you smoke, you may make your own. This case may be the perfect size for you. You can see there in the corners there is some wear to the paint, some discoloration. The spring on the tension arm has good tension. It doesn't seem weak, but it is also not super strong, which for that style of spring I don't suppose you would necessarily expect it to. The paint in the bed there where the arm comes to rest has worn, but the paint in general on the flap and there where the cigarettes lay is very good, where on the over flap here, or under flap maybe you would call this, the underside paint looks more like overspray. Here on the front you can see where it looks like sun or light, something has faded it over time. My guess would be light, most likely. You can see that a good deal of that underside of that is not covered with paint. Here you can see the leaves that are in there, and then that each one of them have them in them. I didn't count to see how many were in each one. I may have at some point when I had this listed before, but I didn't do it this time, and I'm not going to. Just know they're there. They look full. They might be missing one or a few out of it. I don't know. I'm not necessarily expecting that whoever buys this is going to use those papers. I would expect that the adhesive, I would assume they have an adhesive of some sort on them that would no longer be viable. You can see the wear that the case exhibits, but you can also see the very artistic design. I'm not sure what you call that. It sort of looks like a fleur-de-lis to me, but the silverish, silver tone embellishments, then with the sort of burgundy or brownish, I'm not sure what to call the color. The paint is good enough that if you pay attention there, you might catch my reflection in it. So there are chips, as I said. Here you can see on the hinge, paint that is worn away here and there on both hinges. Maybe more on that one than the other, at least more uniformly on some of those barrels. There you can see that underside that I was speaking of again. But the tension arm also shows some corrosion, maybe plating loss. If it is corroding, then it would be missing some of its plating. But I don't know exactly that it is lost any or all that much, or maybe it's just dirty. But there is some wear, as I said, not perfect, but it does seem that the arm holds tight enough. There aren't any markings on this case that I have been able to find. I really have no idea whether it was some kind of a Prince Albert promotion or whether somebody put those papers in there at a later time. I am as clueless as anybody about that. That is how I bought them, but there was no other explanation or description or provenance or anything like that. So this is what you are getting, this case that is just a little bit under 3 inches, or right about 3 inches on the inside by about 2 1/8. It fits these Prince Albert papers. Here's when I get around to measuring the other dimension, which we'll see if I remembered that correctly, at 2 1/8. But I also want to mention too that underside flap. I keep mentioning that and then getting distracted from it. A little over 2 1/8, I think. But that underside flap, the one that would be exposed to your cigarettes, is largely void of paint. Or maybe not largely, maybe about 50%. It looks more like it was oversprayed than it was typically, or I'm sorry, than it was purposely painted. But who knows? Maybe it was worn off. I don't think so, because the paint is so clear on those other two inside surfaces. And while it does have chips, blemishes of many kinds, as I said, you can still see my reflection in there if you look carefully. It's a very nice old case that would be a very good addition to someone's collection. Until next time.